This episode of Fuel for the Soul is powered by ASICS. Head over to asics.com and sign up for a one ASICS account. It's completely free, and when you sign up, you will receive 10% off your first purchase. You'll also gain access to exclusive colorways on asics.com, free standard shipping, special birthday month discounts, and more.
Hi, this is Thomas with Believe in the Run.
This is Megan with Believe in the Run.
And this is Megan with Featherstone Nutrition.
I mean, I don't even bother anymore. Why do you even say your name? It's Feathers. Everybody calls you Feathers. Everywhere we go, it's Feathers. Like, did anybody ask you to take a picture in Germany that wasn't like Feathers?
I don't think many people asked me to take pictures in Germany, but I did label my water bottles for the own hydration with Megan Feathers because Featherstone didn't fit.
Okay.
So, we're just changing my name.
And that's a complete lie. When we were at the Shakeout Run, everyone there was like, oh my gosh, can I get a photo with you?
I forgot. Yeah, you're right. The Shakeout Run was pretty epic.
I mean, I think if the choice is Big Megan or Feathers, you go with Feathers.
Wait, you do realize people have been calling me Big Megan. Like, I will get DMs.
Yeah,
Someone in Berlin actually said it. And I was like, I don't think
no, it's not. It's Feathers.
Okay. Anyway, if you are listening to this, you are actually listening to Fuel for the Soul, the podcast where we chat all things hydration and nutrition and how it affects performance. And we're still going to talk about that today. I think we're going to do a nice little recap of Berlin Marathon and our, fueling strategies there, and then answer a couple listener questions about some post-marathon nutrition.
I think that sounds great.
Yeah. We're all on board. Meg, lead the way.
Okay, let's start with Berlin. Let's start with the carb loading. We got there well in advance so that we didn't have to be like shoving carbs in our faces on the way over.
Oh, but we did.
but we did.
Wait, what'd you guys have on the way over?
I don't know about the way over, but I just remember when we stopped for those pretzels. We stopped in the Aldi or whatever, and I ended up grabbing like 3 and eating them.
Oh, but that was
on the
2
run.
days into the.
That was carb
since we've
load.
been there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, when we got there way before you guys because you guys had like 18 connections. So It was me and a couple others that happened to also be on my flight, which is probably why I didn't get delayed was because it wasn't my luck. It was their luck. But our rooms weren't ready. So we were like so exhausted sitting on those beautiful couches on the 5th floor of the Soho house. And we were like, I think we should eat. So we just like ordered lunch or breakfast and then ordered lunch because the rooms still weren't ready. And I don't know about you guys, but the sourdough bread there was incredible. Like they had the best bread.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And I think you, Megan, had the burrata for like at least
Every
4 meals while we were there.
I had 3 meals. Yeah.
3 meals.
Burrata and sourdough bread was like a staple of my carb load. It's so lovely. It's like perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was, I found it to be pretty easy to carb load. I like always brought a box of graham crackers. So I had those in the room for whenever. And then like Thomas was saying, a couple days before the race, we went, or was that the day before or a couple days before?
That was the day before because we did the Shakeout Run, and then we went and looked at Brandenburg Gate. And when we ran up to Brandenburg Gate, we ran and got pretzels.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we went to Aldi and got some soft pretzels.
Which is kind of crazy. Like, we're all the way in Berlin. We're not buying street pretzels or going to like a gourmet, like pretzel bakery, German. We're going to Aldi, the low budget shopping store, like grocery store.
And to be fair, we passed a couple like soft pretzel, like very bougie bakeries. And I was like, do you want to go in there, Thomas? Because I was like, last time I was here, the best soft pretzels were actually from Aldi. They were like the chewiest, the softest, like the one I got from like a bougie place last year when they yelled at me for taking a picture. It was really dry. So Thomas was like, all right, I'll trust you. Let's go to Aldi. And weren't they good?
They were delicious.
They were really good. We ended up actually eating them and running. It was like the true runner's carb load of jogging and eating
and I have to
pretzels.
say, of breads, it was pretty easy to eat and run with it.
Right. I know. I was like joking, like, hey, Meg, get a video of me eating this pretzel while I'm running. And I was like, wait, this actually doesn't feel that abnormal. I mean, we weren't running fast, but.
Yeah.
And then wait, Meg, didn't you make pretzels?
I did. So this
They're
past
amazing.
weekend, obviously we we were missing our pretzels from Germany. So I was like, well, we're back here. Let me just make some. And I got a message from you and a DM from a couple people, and the, who's the guy? Alton Brown from the Food Network. That one was very popular. So I was like, let me at least try that one. And I got to say, they were really good.
How many pretzels did you make the first night?
I made 8.
And I had 3 that night. Like, they were hot and warm coming out of the oven. They were perfect. But I actually found that, so Megan made another batch because we gave some to Robbie. We gave some to Carl. Made another batch on Sunday for the football. And then the ones we didn't eat, she put in the freezer. I put them in the air fryer to get them back to like room temp or whatever. And it creates that hard crust on the outside, but it's still soft and doughy on the inside. And it's just insane. I think I made a pretzel sandwich. I had just a pretzel with cream cheese. I had like 3 pretzels yesterday, I think.
You're carb loaded. You're ready. You're going to run Chicago. I mean, why not?
Yeah. We were joking because we were talking about his next marathon is likely London. And so we were like, oh, carb loading for London already.
Getting started.
Ready.
I love that. I was going to say you should make a sandwich out of them. Did you like slice it in half and make like a sandwich like you would a bagel? That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, but my thought was when I saw it is I'm like, every bite doesn't get bread because there's like holes in the middle. So I was like, is that good? I don't know.
You still get the bread. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's like saying when you eat a hole in a bagel, you're not tasting bagel.
Oh, yeah. It's usually like filled with cream cheese.
Yeah.
It's filled with something.
It was good. It was delicious. Megan is a master baker.
Yeah, so I'm actually, I did really like Alton's recipe, but there's another one that I kind of meshed the two together. And so I'll put it out on what I did on Believe so people can use it. Yeah.
Oh, another recipe on Believe?
Yeah. Ooh, we have to take photos.
She made some really quick cookies that were just okay. So there are some...
Okay, so how meticulous were you, Megan, in counting your carbs before the race?
Yeah. So I always, in my notes section on my phone, when I eat anything with carbs, I just put it in there and like guesstimate what it is. And then eventually at some point add it up. Maybe it's before dinner, maybe it's after dinner, just to be like, how many more do I need? So pretty casual. That's what I always do. But I will say, I feel like I've run so many marathons in the last 2 years. This is getting very easy. Like I used to get kind of nervous about it and overthink it and like plan it a little bit more, but it feels just easy to wing it these days. So I do obviously keep track and make sure I'm getting around where I think I need, but it's more like just keeping tabs of what I'm doing instead of like planning out what I'm going to do. And it seems to work well. I personally like to keep stress and excess thought at a minimum when it comes to racing, like just relax and have fun. So, keeping the carb load relaxed was super helpful too.
And you used to be like super like crazy the day before, like not like even eating out at a restaurant. And now that you're totally fine doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually this might only be the second time I've been at a restaurant the night before a goal race. It might only be the second time, but that said, I do think, and I've said this before, I think a lot of my race day GI feelings are nervousness. And I just didn't feel very nervous for this one. So I was like, you're fine. Like just eat what you know always agrees with you. And sure enough, I was totally fine.
What about you, Meg?
Yeah, I similarly to Megan, like was just writing down throughout the day, little notes to make sure that I was getting in enough. But I've never, I don't think for any single marathon have I like planned out and had exactly the amount that I'm supposed to. I just feel like that like perfection and trying to hit everything to a T is just, it's added stress that you just, I can't handle before a race.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I just eat, I just know that, hey, I got to eat carbs. So I don't really count it, but I'm just like, okay, this is a carb, eat it. And just make sure that I'm eating lots of carbs leading up to it. But I've never like counted them or anything like that. Usually what I do is I look over at Meg and say, hey, am I good? And she's like, yeah, just eat some of that.
Here, have this. Yeah.
She's like, that has a little too much fat in it. You don't want that.
I was really impressed. I mean, clearly I'm not vegan, but there was vegan options everywhere. Did you guys notice that? Like really great vegan options.
I was talking to Tommy about that briefly because I was like, normally I feel like when you're traveling, it must be pretty challenging to find like all these vegan spots. And I was like, I feel like when we were in Berlin, there was more vegan options than not.
Right. Right. And at every restaurant, like I feel like when we were in Paris, we saw like some vegan restaurants that you could go to, but no other restaurants had vegan options, right? But I felt like there was stuff everywhere. So that one sandwich shop that we stopped into that was one of the days of carb load, I got this vegan sandwich that was massive pieces of bread and it was stuffed with purple potatoes and sweet potatoes. I was like, how perfect is this? It's like carbs on carbs on carbs, you know? So I thought it was kind of fun to have some different stuff like that in the buildup.
When was that?
You had a sandwich. Remember the bees were on the cinnamon rolls?
In the little shop we went to the base to the shakeout run?
The Adidas Sports Base the first day.
Oh, yeah. That I felt like the food was pretty good in Germany. Accessibility, everything was good. It's strange. We stayed on, I would say, the east side and a little bit away from, I would say, like the first year when you did it, you stayed more in where
right by the Tier
activities
Garden.
were. We were more, I felt like, kind
removed.
Of in this, somewhat. Would you consider it artsy district or like?
That's a word for it.
Like, like even where
your face,
even where Adidas had its like pop up that we were doing a lot of stuff out of, it looked like a condemned building.
Yeah. But it was cool once you got inside.
Yeah,
it was very cool.
I think that was like the vibe.
Yeah. For sure. Like you only get in here if you know someone in here. Like no one would ever have walked in there without knowing there was something on the other side. Yeah.
Okay. So in addition to carb loading, Megan, you and I wanted to put out our personal hydration, which you had done the year before. This was my first time doing it, but we basically decorated some bottles that we could find out on the course.
Yeah. And I think it worked pretty darn well. I just wish someone would have grabbed our extra bottles. I feel bad knowing they just sat there.
I wanted extra bottles. I didn't know what yours looked like feathers, but I knew what Megan's looked like. So I was looking for hers. I was surprised because I was kind of like, why would you do this kind of stressful thing where you're going to have to find a bottle on a table? But I was surprised how clearly the tables were laid out. It did seem like even though, I mean, there was 50,000 runners out there, I would only say maybe 100 people took advantage of the bottle drop. So it wasn't like overwhelming. Now that we're talking about it, it'll probably get bigger, but I was like, oh, maybe I would have done this if I had known that it wouldn't, like I was terrified that there would be 1,000 bottles and you're trying to find 1,000 bottles. But really by the time we got to it, and of course, Aubrey, I was pacing with Aubrey and we were going, quite a bit slower than you guys were. So a lot of bottles were probably taken at that point. But when I got to the tables, like it wasn't a ton of bottles out.
Yeah. No, I felt the same way. And I do like my strategy or what I learned last year was I felt like there needed to be something tall that caught your own eye. So mine was a graham cracker sticker from Nashville that they made for our stop there this summer. Meg had like a star. One of my other clients had pinwheels. And all three of us found our bottles fine. So I do think there is something to like just something that stands out to you that's just a little bit taller above your bottle. Because I think it caught my eye immediately at the first stop. And I was like, oh, there's my bottle. I guess I'll refill now. So both Meg and I refilled with those bottles into our handhelds with varying degrees of success.
I would say yours looked way more, it just looked a lot better than when I attempted to do it. And also you did yours at 20K.
Yeah, I did, which I put a bottle at 20, 25, and 30. And I wasn't thinking I would even look for the bottle at 20. But right before that, I drained my handheld. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I will just look and see. I didn't feel like I needed it yet. But I was like, if I see it, I might as well grab it. And sure enough, I saw it and grabbed it. So I was like, okay, this will just be the bottle. I won't look at the other two. But I do feel like that screwed us over because then I forgot the other stops and I wasn't with you to help you and you did find your bottle. And then I was like, oh, shoot, she's looking for a bottle and I'm not next to her to help her.
No, so I saw it immediately and it was no issue getting it. It's that I had screwed the top on so tight to the bottle that I put down that I couldn't undo it with one hand because I had a handheld in one. Yeah. And so I was trying to use like one hand to unscrew it and could not do it for the life of me. I also picked my bottle up at 30K. So, I mean, at that point, I'm more tired than we were at 20K.
Yeah.
And so it just felt like a total cluster because I was like just trying to do too many things at once. And then I finally caught back up to you to hand you one of my bottles so I could unscrew it.
Yeah.
And then trying to dump it in, though, it's like the bottle that I had on the table had a very wide mouth and my handheld had a smaller mouth. So trying to put that into my handheld was quite a situation where most of it, I think, got onto me, but then enough got into my bottle that I was like, okay, this will do for the remainder of the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Quick question about that. So you're allowed to have a bottle if you're an amateur at Berlin. Mm-hmm. Is it legal for you, say that you had someone spectating, can they hand you a bottle or does it have to be?
Technically that's illegal for anyone, but you really only get in trouble if you're accepting prize money is my understanding.
Yeah. Cause I'm sure the people handing out beers at New York City Marathon.
Yeah.
Right.
No one's getting DQ'd for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other question I had was, so have you ever run a marathon like Berlin before? And I guess, Megan, you've run Berlin before, but where it's only Ks, like there's no mile markers.
What about London and Tokyo? Was there mile markers there?
Tokyo had mile markers as well as kilometers. I felt like it did.
I don't think London did though.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No.
London did?
I think London
London's
did.
Ks.
Are you
all
Ks?
Ks?
Sure?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, because I was going to say, people learn your Ks. Like I'm trying to do math while I'm running. And I'm like, okay, 42K is a full marathon. So
work backwards.
21 is the half.
The half, yeah.
You know, and you're starting to go. But when you get to 30K, you're like, what, where am I? I don't.
Yeah.
There's at 30K, there's 12K left. 12K at 10K is 6 miles. You know, I'm trying to do all that.
Let's talk about the in-race nutrition because if someone is doing it by miles, which I don't think you normally recommend, Megan, you all are typically time-based, then the Ks don't really matter because you're taking it, every 25 minutes, every 30 minutes?
Yeah, but I used the Ks. I did every 5K.
Oh, that works.
Something.
Yeah.
It works. And at your pace, that was like every 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, let me jump in because I had the longest one. You guys will go. So I knew that I was pacing Aubrey and I knew that he wanted to do 4:30. And so I did the math on how many Ks that would be, how many 5Ks. And because I was out there longer, I knew that I would probably need more fuel than if I was, it probably works out the same, you guys putting in the hard effort to go sub 3, but being out there on your feet, like the last thing I want to do is be running out of gas as I'm out there for that long. So I think I did 8 goos. And
you bought 8 goos. Yeah.
Yeah. From, because the station. Now, the one thing I didn't do because the goo caffeine content is a little lower than some of the other ones. I didn't even think about, like when I was pulling them out of my waistband, it didn't, if it had caffeine, it had caffeine. If it didn't, it didn't. I was just like going, but I made sure every 5K and I felt pretty solid throughout. I even think I grabbed one extra Morton on the course because they had Mortons. So technically I probably had 9 goos and at least 100 calories each. That's
awesome.
Almost 1,000 calories of nutrition out on the course.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you take any of the like Morton or tea or did you just take water?
I did try. I did do a cup of Morton out there as well. For me, I'm like, hey, might as well put in as many calories as I can.
Yeah.
And then I did try the tea. The tea is weird because is it giving you any benefit?
Understand. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know why they have tea, but I don't know.
It seems like a weird thing. So on the course, you had your choice of water, and every once in a while, you would have like a lemon tea.
Yeah.
And it was not like, I didn't feel like it had any sweetness to it or anything. So it wasn't like there was calories. You were getting that extra, lift from it. Maybe a little caffeine, but it's tea. So I don't know how much. It just seemed like a weird choice.
Yeah, I agree. And I remember this from last year, but I thought maybe I misremembered it a little bit. I thought it was like, maybe you made a big deal out of this, but I did not. Those cups are tragic. They are tremendously detrimental because they're those hard plastic cups. And I remember feeling like I really had to watch my footing last year, but this year I felt like it was even worse because there were so many more people. And I had a friend that, broke 3, Carrie, that came to our shakeout, our CB, and she said she got like elbowed and pushed and like had bruises on her side from trying to get water. Like it was really aggressive to like have to use those aid stations. And then the cups were everywhere. So I was just so thankful. Every single time I saw people like herding to one of those water stations every like 5-ish K, like they weren't as frequent as we're used to in the States. I mean, Meg and I just beelined the opposite direction, like get out of their way because it was
because you had the bottles.
Yeah, right. Like I was so thankful.
I used every
Same.
water station. I told Aubrey to use every water. I was like, look, I don't care if you're not thirsty. I don't
Good
care.
job, Coach.
We're getting water at every station. And there was only one time where I felt like there was an aggressive guy that I was just kind of like, chill.
Cheribundi is at it again with a brand new product to make it even easier for us to benefit from tart cherries at home and on the go. You can now find all the benefits of tart cherries in gummy form. Each gummy is equivalent to 12 and a half tart cherries. Taking just 2 to 4 gummies per day will give you the powerful antioxidants that have shown to reduce muscle soreness and lead to greater recovery. Tart cherry gummies are available now at cheribundi.com or Amazon. Use code FUEL for 20% off your purchase.
Okay, Megan, you said this was like one of your best fueling marathons ever. You nailed it. I effed up in multiple places, which I'll talk about afterwards. But let's hear about your perfect day.
Yeah. I always take a gel at the start, and that's where I always take caffeine at the start in 1 hour because it takes an hour for that caffeine to peak in our system and it hangs for about an hour. So that means I have caffeine in my system from 1 hour to 3 hours, and hopefully I'm finishing under 3 hours. So that's kind of tried and true. I use the Morton, so it's 200 milligrams total of caffeine. Our caffeine needs are based on body weight. That seems to be my sweet spot. Some people who are smaller or larger might need less or more, but that's what's worked good for me. But then in the past, I've like tried to push gels a little closer to like every 25 minutes. Like last year at Berlin, I tried, but I ended up towards the end, like not being able to get them down every 25 minutes. And this year it just like clockwork. Every 25 minutes I was able to take them. And I actually took the last one after 20 minutes because I was like doing the math in my head and I was like, I just need to take this early so it benefits me a little bit more during it. So I ended up taking 7 gels total. Is that right? I think so. And then 2, I use the Scratch hydration with the Scratch high sodium added to it. It's called everyday drink. So I was able to get 1,000 milligrams of sodium in my bottle with another 20 grams of carbs. So since I was able to refill a second time, that was an extra 20 grams of carbs that I had never gotten. Just because how else can you refill your water bottle with Scratch while you're out there running a race and don't want to stop? So much more sodium than I've ever gotten. I think it averaged like 700 milligrams of sodium an hour. And even though it was in the 50s, I mean, you saw people scrubbing salt off me at the finish line. Like, you don't want this in your pictures. I was like, I don't care. I don't care.
I was going to say, let's talk a little bit about that because the weather was cool and it felt good for the most part.
Mm-hmm. But you're still sweating.
That's the thing is that I think like a lot of people weren't realizing how much they were sweating. And that was again with Aubrey. I was like, he's like, I don't need, and I was like, is your back sweaty right now? Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah. I'm like, it's nice and cool out here, so you're not noticing it, but you're still losing those things. And I even noticed on my hat at the end, I didn't feel like I was overly sweating, and I had a black hat on, and at the end, there were salt streaks all over it. How misleading can a 55 to 50 degree day be for people and not thinking that they need like sodium or the electrolytes?
Right. And I mean, extremely misleading, right? Because I mean, even in the 50s, we're sweating a ton. And a lot of it goes back to like how sweaty of a runner are we, right? We know that's genetic. We've talked about that a lot around here. And then 2, when you're out, it was sunny, so it felt a little warmer, than the 50s when we were out there. And then 2, it was a decently dry day. Like, it was pretty humid the couple days leading up to the race, but it was pretty dry. So that means our sweat's evaporating really quickly, which is why we're seeing so much more salt. We're not quite as soaked, you know what I mean? Like, training through the humidity of the summer, you never really see it dry. But like on a day like Berlin in the 50s with mostly sunny, you really see the salt losses from that because it's able to evaporate. And like we've said before, there's no electrolytes on course. So we've got to be carrying our own if we want some. So I do think people get into trouble at Berlin just because they're not prepared. They're like, oh, it's so much cooler than I was used to running. And just there's nothing on course. And then they just don't have enough electrolytes.
Well, I mean, Meg, you ended up getting some cramping that you haven't had in years since you started working with Megan Featherston. You haven't experienced that. It's kind of like you fixed it. What do you think was the difference in your fueling and stuff for this race that you got cramps again?
Well, I didn't realize it until Megan, you posted on Instagram the amount of sodium you got in per hour. And I was like, that's more than total I got in all day that you got per hour.
Oh, no.
And I was like, maybe that was part of the problem.
But like, where was the disconnect for you?
I should have given you some of my extra every day scratch.
I don't know. For whatever reason in my mind, just a scoop of the scratch that I always do without the extra sodium from the daily was fine in my head because it was going to be a cooler day and like I just wasn't that worried about it.
Did you have Ellen the night before or anything?
I didn't do that the night before. Yeah, I think I was lacking quite a bit of salt when I look back at it.
Rookie.
Yeah, I know. And on top of it, this is my 30th marathon. You'd think I'd figured this out by now. And I messed up the timing of my gels and I meant to take my caffeinated one as the second one. And I literally ripping open the bag of the uncaffeinated one. And I'm like, that's not what I was supposed to do.
You said that to me. You were like, this was supposed to be caffeine, wasn't it? I was like, you're fine to take the next one.
And I had already opened it. So I had to take that one at the time. And like Megan, you were saying you were taking it in every 25 minutes and I would watch you do that. And I was like, I'm not ready for another one yet. So I was like giving myself the 30 minutes, but even that, like they didn't feel great.
Okay. So you said, I'm not ready. So you're running, what's indicating to you that you're not ready?
I was like, I might just throw it back up right now.
Yeah.
Like I don't want it. And I just couldn't fathom putting it in my body at that moment. Which is honestly, most races for me, I feel like it's just not easy to get them down. I just do it.
I mean, that's kind of why I switched from Morton to Never Second, which I forgot here in the States and ended up having to use the goo. But there's something about that high concentrated, high sweetness without any kind of flavor of the Morton that does give me the like kind of that irk. And so like that was like having the multiple different flavors of goo was helpful on race day. And since I didn't train with them, I wasn't like sick of like another mocha one. It was like, oh, okay, that one tastes like bad. And then I had a cola one.
It was like a game. Like which flavor am I going to get now? You were probably super entertained. See, that's my worst nightmare. I would never take gels that had that many flavors. I would never the only way I can fuel enough is that it has no flavor. It's thick. The Morton's thick. Like, I don't think I could fuel this hard with anything else just because I don't like the flavor. I don't like make it as like simple as possible. And that's probably my best bet. I also like Peeps and candy corn. So, I mean,
okay.
I'm one of those. Corn? Oh, I love it.
Candy corn, the waxy.
Trash candy of the world.
Yep. Love it. I dip it in peanut butter.
Oh, geez.
So good. Wait, well, you don't like it. You'll never try it, but so good.
A corn syrup sandwich.
Haven't you ever seen people eat candy corn and peanuts together? Like a trail mix almost. No? Is that an Ohio thing? So I'm like, it's the same thing. You just dip it in peanut butter. Tastes like a baby Ruth. Is that the one that's like the peanuts and nougat? No?
Oh, Payday. I like the
Payday. Yeah, that's what it tastes like. Yeah. They're just straight sugar. I like sugar. Yeah. A lot.
I get that.
I'm like Elf. Anyways. Yeah. So I do think, I mean, kind of going back to the hydration piece and being able to put our bottles out there, like Thomas said, it was not nearly as crowded as it was last year with the bottles. I think there was more tables. I think there was only 2 tables for the own refreshments last year, and there was definitely 3 this year. So I do feel like the bottles were more spaced out. But to Thomas's point, like, You have to drop them off between 7 and 7:45 on race day morning. I just don't think people want to get there that early. And I do think that small window just kind of decreases how many people take advantage of it, truthfully. But there was a girl.
Could I have, like, if I had wanted to have you guys drop a bottle for me?
Yeah.
Would have I been able
They didn't
to do
check.
that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For sure. Well, and there was a girl who came to our shakeout that was then on the train with me when we switched planes in Newark. And she was like, I wanted to follow up with you. I put 6 bottles on course. Like, she was using it as like her personal, like almost like she was elite, right? She had like a bottle at 6 different places. She said she found 5 of them and she ran like a 10-minute PR and ran like 2:48.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And used and she was like, it was great. I'm so glad you told us to do that. Like, it was so helpful to have my own bottles out there. I was like, you found 5 and ran a 2:48. I was like, that's incredible.
Yeah. That's seriously impressive.
I mean, back where I was, you could have taken all day.
Yeah. It was good. Yeah. It was good. It was good. But this was the first time the Scratch everyday drink mix is new and it's just sodium. So this is the first summer I've trained with that. And, I've talked very openly about, like, when it's hot out and I'm really sweaty, like, my stomach hates me, whether it's during the run or after the run. I had no stomach issues all summer training. And I went from, like, in my bottle having 400 milligrams of sodium to 1,000. And that was like the only thing that changed this summer. So I was like, I really do think I just needed more sodium all along. Yeah. So that's why, even though the race was going to be cooler, I was like, what's it going to harm to continue to take more sodium on race day? And honestly, I felt great after. Like, my stomach always hurts. Like, I have like Zofran just in case I need it after a race. And like, I felt totally fine. So I'm like, I really think there is something to heavy, salty sweaters needing even more salt, which that sounds normal, but.
Okay. Back to Berlin. So post race, you're always touting, Megan, we need to get in protein ASAP to recover. But if you're not running for a while and you have nothing else on the agenda, it's kind of like you're celebrating your race.
Also, the finish line back to the place, it wasn't like there was convenient place to stop and get protein.
No.
And they didn't have anything in our bags, I don't think.
No. There was like 2 granola bars, but they weren't protein. And then there was like pretzels, chocolate, and a banana, I think, because I brought some of at home for my kids because they think that's hilarious. I don't know. I actually brought a protein shake from home, like a Fairlife one. I like packed it. So I like chugged that when I got back. But I mean, that was a couple hours later because we'd gone to like Tracksmith and we were all over the place.
When we went to that restaurant and had cocktails, I just ordered like 3 plates of meatballs.
Yeah. And then Meg and I split a burger. Thank you, Meg.
Yeah,
she was like, are you sure you don't? And I was like, oh yeah, I need to eat part of that. Thank you.
And I think we all felt great afterwards, but we might as well answer these questions because they're related to post-race marathon stomach issues. So Allison wrote in and said that she had just done her first marathon. It went super well. She followed your carb load plan to a T and like everything was super great until after the marathon, where it sounds like she had like cramping and nausea, diarrhea, like the worst.
Sounds like a Pepto-Bismol commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So,
right?
I mean, couldn't that be like a million factors, or is that race related specifically?
It could, but this is very, very common. And I don't know, like maybe you guys haven't experienced it or anything, but like sometimes my stomach is like not happy after. Like a lot of us can get through. It sounds like she carb loaded, she fueled well. It sounds like she, for her first marathon, like soaked up all the information I put out there to really have a successful race, which is super exciting. And then I think she was defeated that she felt so crummy afterwards and like couldn't go out and celebrate and wasn't feeling her best. So I wanted to bring it up because I do hear this quite a bit from people, both in races and training, but obviously it's exacerbated for races. But I have so many people that will come to me one-on-one that'll talk about like, I get really sick after races. Like my significant other doesn't want me to run anymore because I'm like debilitated after, that kind of stuff. So I do think this is fairly common from that perspective. So it was interesting because I've got a bunch of blog posts about this and the different factors that could cause it, but I wanted to see if there was any new research, and there actually was. So there was a study that just came out recently that was of Boston Marathon participants, and they took, I think it was a urine sample, and they were looking for a protein that shows like GI like damage. And then they were looking at like specific gravity of the urine, which tells us our hydration. So they did this before the Boston Marathon, immediately after, and then 24 hours after. And they correlated that with people's GI symptoms after the race. So this study was like exactly looking at the elements that she is talking about, right? Like the race was fine, but like afterwards I didn't feel great. And what they found was the people who had the greatest GI complaints after the run were the people who were the most dehydrated. Their specific urine gravity was like very, very high. And they had the highest amount of that protein in their urine that showed like a lot of GI damage, right? So, what came first, the chicken or the egg? But, that was interesting to see that there were some things going on. And then, we've talked about it before that blood flow is decreased to our GI tract when we're racing. So yes, it's a little bit while we're doing long runs. It's worse in the heat. It's worse when we're dehydrated. But like on race day, we're holding a pace and an intensity that like for all intents and purposes, we have no business holding for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, right? We're pushing our body to a limit that like it does some damage to our GI tract. So this study was actually saying that blood flow can be reduced up to 80% to our GI tract during a marathon. Like that's a lot, right? So that's what's causing that damage. It's like a little bit of lack of blood flow. And as we know, in a healthy runner, a few days later, which in this case, just even 24 hours later, like there was no markers of damage anymore. So it's definitely temporary. But when we think about that, right, like this explains a lot of why she felt the way she did. So if she wasn't getting great blood flow to her GI tract, then it can get very crampy. It can get bloated. So when we look at like when is blood flow limited to our GI tract, AKA like when are we going to have more symptoms, it was a higher exercise intensity, so race pace, right? The longer we're out there, again, most of us aren't training the amount of time we're out there running a marathon ever, and then heat and dehydration. So, those three things all come together and can really be like a recipe for a lot of issues after.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you're talking about the last Boston, if they did this then, that was a good case because it did get so warm.
Yeah.
And it was not ideal. Yeah. It was... The humidity was up there. The heat was up there. It wasn't an ideal situation. I don't know about you guys, but in Berlin, with the cool temps, and obviously I wasn't giving max effort, I felt dandy.
I felt dandy. I love it. Yeah. So other factors. Yeah. I mean, a marathon's never easy. Like I feel like I was so comfortable being with Meg for the first 20 that it felt a little easier, but it was never easy. Like I felt like I was working the entire time. And then when I tried to speed up, that only lasted a mile. And then I was back to marathon pace. I had 1 mile that was fast. And then I was like, oh no, we're going to go back to the old pace. But some other factors, like, if my mom, Allison's thinking about this. So obviously those are factors, but then additional factors the study found that can make that even worse was poor sleep. So that's going to make GI issues worse either during or after. Illness.
Seeing you say that, and now it's going to stress people out, and they're not going to be able to sleep before the marathon because they're going to be like, poor sleep is going to ruin my marathon. Now I can't sleep.
No, it's just to make sense of what happened so that you can control the variables that you can possibly control. Not that we can control them all, but another interesting one was illness. So they're saying that like there's an immune reaction in our GI tract that causes some of those symptoms. So if you've recently been sick, even if it wasn't with the GI thing, they were saying that like there was more incidents of GI issues. And then also fitness level. So if we're running too fast for how we should be, that's going to be a bigger strain on our GI tract. And then if we take a lot of NSAIDs, that's really hard on our GI tract. And then if we ate too much fat before a race, that was another factor. So all those things are things people can think about if it's something that they want to change, if they are having GI issues afterwards. But I do think a lot of this comes back to adequate hydration. So we've talked about that before, right? Like if we get too dehydrated, this insult to our GI tract is going to be even greater. The fact that she was having a lot of pain in her stomach, it's kind of makes me wonder if she had gotten way too dehydrated and needs to focus on taking in some sodium or some hydration. So when we're thinking about like what are tips if you're in this situation or to try to avoid it in the future, I would continue practicing fueling and hydration in your long runs. She is a newer runner. So this is her first marathon. Maybe her GI tract just needs some training, right? So like keep up with that practice next time she's training for a marathon. And then also review how your hydration went before and during the race. Did you get too dehydrated? Like, is there a way to get more sodium and fluid in during the race? Because just like I was saying with my own examples, if I get enough sodium and fluid during a long run or during a race, I feel astronomically better GI wise afterwards. So that would be something she could look at too. Also, it sounds counterintuitive, but the sooner we can get sodium and fluid into our body, the better we're going to feel. So maybe actually having something like pretzels and some fluid immediately after could be helpful. And then, last resort, have some medication around. So that pain that she described was probably trapped air. Take some simethicone, which is like the Gas X. It helps move that through, right? So you're not having that pain. It's totally benign, over the counter. So you could keep some like simethicone with you, Pepto, like you're saying, Thomas, for the nausea. Like, it's okay to take something afterwards so that you can enjoy your time if you've kind of checked all those other boxes, just to have some things on hand.
I do want to tell Allison that she should not quit marathoning because of this one GI issue instance, and that she should definitely still do it, because honestly, while Megan, you brought up all those really good points about research and what she can change for the next time, it also could have just been like a fluke situation. So like, definitely try it again, and let's see if you don't have a better time celebrating.
I mean, we've all had, at this point, we've run several marathons.
Yeah.
And we've all had ones where we've finished and been like, I can't eat, I don't want anything. Like, you drink beer and you don't even get a buzz. Like,
hate it when that happens.
That's the weirdest thing about marathons. You can run a marathon and then you can't get intoxicated after you want to celebrate. And
I think it's because your metabolism is through the roof. I think you're just burning through everything you put in your body real quickly. But yeah. That's good.
Okay. I think that wraps us up for today. If you guys have a question that we have not answered, definitely send us an email at fuelforthesoulpodcast@gmail.com. We'll answer it here on the show.
Maybe.
Chances are.
Chances are we will. If it's a good one, make it funny.
Yeah. If you make us laugh, you're guaranteed to make it onto the show.
Or you have a cool name. Sometimes we like names.
Yeah.
Speaking of, remember when we answered Lars' question and then Lars showed up in Berlin? Why I remember his name, I'm very unsure. But probably because it was a unique name.
Yeah,
and that's the other thing. If you just want to ask a question, show up at one of our shakeouts, and you can get right in front of Megan Featherston and drill her.
Yeah.
I love it. Especially if there's pretzels we can juggle and eat a lot of.
Yeah. All right.
Peas and carrots.
There it is.
There it is.
Bye.
Bye.
And also, how about my phone suggesting that you be a screen for it? Texted me it or something. Why are you texting me?
Why are you texting me topless photos, Megan? I had a sports bra on. It's okay.
You did have a sports bra.
Believe in the baker. It's going to be an offshoot. Believe in the run.
I think it's called Magels. But as a child, if you go up to someone's house and you get candy corn, you're like, meh. Is Peeps Christmas or is
that's Easter?
Every holiday now.
And I've been using a sleep aid that has some little THC in it.
This escalated quickly.